Hey there, I'm Eternal, and I'm an object show fan that has barely watched any object shows. We have to fix that. Let's play Object Catchup. Hello and welcome into Object Catchup, the series where we discuss object show episodes right after watching them. Whether they are new or old, famous or unknown, it doesn't matter. We will get to it all. Now, for today, I do plan to make a little bit of a smaller episode. I mean, yesterday's video ended up being the longest catch-up ever at 4 hours and 9 minutes long. But today we're mainly doing a keep-up episode with a bunch of releases that happened from various shows. Starting off here, we're going to start off here with a little bit out of order because I want to start off here with Google's Diplomatic Show, right? Because as part of Objectcember, I am going to try to take a look at the main releases from that lineup, of course, depending on time and all of that stuff. However, we are planning to do that because yesterday, Google's Diplomatic Show 5, called Under Moo Management, ended up releasing. As a reminder, last time we had Google's Diplomatic Show on this series, we ended up having a non-competition episode with our eliminated contestants as they adventured around. They ended up finding a sacred fridge that was open, and Google was very, very, very worried about this. And they started to freak out. Why are they freaking out? I don't know. I guess we're going to have to find out. According to 3B, this will continue the show, so we're going back to the competition. As a reminder, the last time up for elimination, where I think Albert, the fish tag, the lemon demon, some of the weirder characters, it was a like and dislike voting system. Let's watch episode 5, Under Moo Management, and let's chat all about it. Let's go. Alright, I have just watched episode 5 of Google's Diplomatic Show Under Moo Management. Which I get it. I get the title because it's new management because the host is new technically, right? And then it's moo because cow. Okay, I get it. But first of all, let's absolutely begin it. Ain't no way Objectcember has a fucking intro itself. Yo, that's sick. Yo, that's cool as hell. Bro, look at that. I don't know. That looks sick. And then there's the characters from the shows, presumably in the order that they release. Then go like from the show to the next. Okay, now I gotta do it. What? That's crazy. That actually looks really cool. Fair enough. And then because like presumably, yeah, that's Google's silhouette because they have like super long, like I mean, stretchy limbs. Like super ragdolly limbs. That's cool. That yeah, that's kind of sick. But we end up having Google be, weirdly distant. We end up finding out because I don't know, they're doing something. They've just been at their house, been chilling, and they've not really been talking to Drivey. And even Drivey ends up going like, yo, I mean, I don't really know what's happening, but I've certainly happened. And they eventually go check on the house, and they go like, yo, I don't care about the diplomatic show right now. So like, do whatever you want. And like the way that it is the way that it is. So yeah, you can see that Google just sounds a lot more quiet. But within the house, they're very like think. They're thinking a lot, which is weird because it's Google. You wouldn't expect them to usually think that much, They're kind of like the epitome of a super crazy fella, but now they're not crazy anymore. And then we end up having Drivey host. So now we have ourselves our classic little thing in Object Show sometimes of host changes to a fella that doesn't really know how to do this, but that's kind of fun. I always love these episodes. I really enjoy when there is a host that kind of doesn't know what they're doing, right? But they're like they're going for it, And then we end up Drivey. Drivey is still not in the intro. I'm telling you, bro. Why is Drivey not in this intro? There is literally enough time. Like, but after Google, the Google section, there's like at least like an additional 2 seconds where you could fit in Drivey. Like, bro. I mean, I know Drivey probably has the same pronouns, but like it's just cool when a character shows up and they're on the intro, Especially now that Drivey is the flipping host. Freaking Drivey's diplomatic show. But okay. I like how moon has to work overtime, whatever the hell that means. I wonder, is that like is that a daylight savings joke? Is that what that is? That's what I was thinking. Like, yo, are we doing daylight savings right now? And it's like, haha, you see, it's because the thingy happened, and it's like, okay, I see it. Um, but yeah, eventually Moon we end up doing that. Then Drivey, I think, does the elimination. Yes, with Team Ack, where we have ourselves. Okay, who are these characters? I don't. Hold on. I need to remember because this was the team that I already didn't know enough about. So there's like BFM, that's voiced by BFM. Is that the OC or something? Or the Lemon Demon, Alfred Peacock, I think, and then the other guy's called like Albert, I think. Okay, yes, that's what this team was, because I was just trying to remember. Anyways, Lemon Demon eventually gets 21 votes. They are pretty cool. I gotta admit, and I think they were the more logical one in that team. Because hold on, wait, again, like I take a look at so many shows that I sometimes forget. So in episode 3, what the hell happened? They were on a camping site, right? They're on a camping site and they were chilling until eventually, like Alfred and the fellas were like, "Yo, we should just go. Like, I'm bored." Or no, they were cold. They were safe, but they were cold. So they went to look for blankets in the middle of the forest. They walked out, and eventually died. But I think Lemon Dean was the one that was opposing of the idea. So you know what, fair enough. Then they're getting the prize, and then we have ourselves some dislikes, where before we end up having some comments on various contestants, which I always think is kind of fun. I like how people like point out the voice actors and the person's like, wait, who is that? You know, and then like you need to you ask Koopa, yo, can you say who is yourself? Like, yeah, that's kind of fun. um Koopa makes another show that I should probably watch, but I haven't gotten around to it. What was it called? It was called like Colorful. Was it called another Colorful show, or was it? Was that a different show? I don't know, but but I know Koopa makes a show. And eventually we end up having ourselves some team switching, which some fellas do. Everybody leaves Burj Khalifa because they stole an extra toothpick, and that is the most illegal thing that they could possibly do. So they go off to form their own rebel team called Better Than the Burj because they are better than the Burj. That makes sense. Um, and then we end up having also the Hankery Alliance because they sort of kind of switched their names because the Hanker people are gone, and also they weren't on that team anyways. That team's pretty small because there's only Hedge and the duet of the with school supplies, right? So I mean, it's technically 3 people, but I'm pretty sure that character counts as 2 people, right? No, it counts as 1. Like even though it's 2, it counts as 1. So that team's pretty small. Um, uh, then we got Ack, yeah, because Ack, after getting rid of the fella, from the viewer voting, we end up also having Burj Khalifa join that team, right? As part of Team Ack now because they don't know about the horrors that were delivered. Um, then we end up having also Team Natload, which I think, remains the same. There's a couple of new designs, I think, for the Fiery Junior ripoff as well, which of course gets their new design. So we have ourselves, what a challenge. Challenge. You have a giant bucket and an ultra cow. Bring the cow to the bucket and you will be safe because the cow is just really really good. um and then they will gift the milk to the Glopic Dairy Society, which is GDS. Haha, I get it. And then when they're having it. So there is one main problem with these cows. These cows are extremely heavy. They are so heavy, bro. Nobody can lift them. First of all, lifting a cow is already very difficult just in real life. Plus, remember, these are like ultra cows that can fill up a gigantic bucket at once. So, yeah, they gotta be pretty good. So we end up having some teams do their go about, and they have to just find a way to get the cow up there. That's kind of the idea. Some fellas try to, they need to build stuff. They need to try to stack it. I think some people try to stack it. We had the team that goes to stack it on the moon. Well, oh yeah, the Alliance, and the other team. ends up going alongside them to sort of bring them over, go back to the mountains because they needed something. Oh yeah, because graduation hat needed to fetch some tools that they had over at the mountain area, while the other team also need to go to the mountain area because they wanted to go grab the faces to sculpt, I guess. So that's what they were doing. So then they end up going together. So nice little cooperation. Some fellas end up. What does this moon team even do? What, Natlord? What are you even doing? They try to bring the cow. They get the cow on the moon, and then it doesn't work. Wait, why doesn't it work? Hold on. Uh, no, it dies because Moon fucking yeeted it, bro. Okay, yes, you have to put it in more carefully. But do that. You don't need to go off fetching wood for it to land on or whatever. Like, you don't need to go make stairs. Like, you can just like put it in more carefully. You know, like, okay, maybe Moon can't though, right? But if you get somebody up alongside the Moon, they can bring it over. You know, like you can still be thrown in. It just can't be thrown in at a mega speed, right? But oh well, whatever. While those teams are doing those tactics, I will be saying that the vibes of this episode feel kind of different. I'm not gonna lie. Compared to the other competition episodes of the show that felt a little bit faster, I feel like the general vibe of this episode is like much more slowed down than usual. Maybe I misremember a little bit, but like in general, I felt like this episode felt a little bit slower paced than a lot of other ones. Just kind of in the way that the interactions are. The music is usually pretty simplistic over there in the background, right? And I think Drivey being the host just causes so much less chaos, right? Because Drivey ends up rather chill, which wasn't the first impression, as far as I'm aware. Like the first time we saw Drivey was pretty chaotic over the elimination, but now Drivey is chilled massively, right? It took a major chill pill, right? So we end up having Drivey be chill, not causing chaos. Kind of be like, yo, this is your challenge, go do it, and then you're safe or you're not safe, right? Like Drivey's very honest host here, and everybody follows along, right? But at the same time, there's not like a very action challenge, right? Because this is a problem solving challenge. You have a problem, which is get the cow to the bucket, and now you have to solve it, right? So it's not a very action oriented challenge. And therefore we have some teams trying to improve it and everything, but we just end up having a much more relaxed vibe, I think, in this episode than the average. Eventually, the team at AK end up deciding to try to use Burj Khalifa, because if they go within the Burj Khalifa with the cow, they bring the cow all the way up to the top of the Burj Khalifa, then they can bring it over to the bucket, which would make sense. That does feel like something that would potentially function, indeed. Um, so they do in fact manage to do that from the top of the Burj Khalifa. So good job on them managing to climb the 50 flights of stairs. Then we end up having okay, what was the first team safe? Oh, the first team safe was the one who built the cliff. Yeah. Because physics and stuff. Yay. We shout out physics for managing to beat the Hankery Alliance, which means that the other two teams end up being up for elimination, which not load because they were all fetching wood. While they were fetching wood, they also go over to we also have a new name for Fiery Junior Ripoff, because of course they got a new asset, which means that even though they are a Fiery and they are a Junior, they are not necessarily a ripoff, right? So then they get a new name. So their new name is Ember. Ember is a new name, which I love that name. By the way, that's a great name. Cause yeah, it is like an ember. Like, it's a small little fire. So shout out to that name. We're gonna need an update on the intro. It's flipping intro. But yeah, that means that we end up having better than the Burge ends up being up for elimination for the viewer voting, because we end up having our contestant vote viewer vote system again, because is pretty interesting, right? I was an avid complainer about this. I was complaining about the system being deleted quite a bit because it was a very interesting little system, you know? Like, there's a bunch of pretty interesting systems to work in object shows that are like unique and stuff that some I haven't even seen ever tried. Like, in fact, I don't think anybody's ever made, like, imagine a 50-50 contestant viewer vote where like they like combine. I don't think anybody's ever done that. But like, for example, this vote, they did it one time in episode 1 and ended up being kind of weird because the characters didn't really know each other. And the same thing applies here a little bit, because here we also kind of speed through the contestant vote, to be honest, right? Because the power of a contestant vote is that you can use the relations built throughout the episode to make them more impactful. But I think that we still have a little bit of a problem here with doing contestant vote, that we're kind of going too fast, you know? Like, I understand the reason that we're speedrunning, but there's this time frame from challenge finish to contestant vote start where something has to happen, right? It's like this, when we're doing a contestant vote, there kind of has to be some sort of a thing in between those two scenes, you know? Because otherwise you're heading into the contestant vote with pretty much a complete cluelessness of what anybody we're going to vote for and why, right? Because we don't get to see any of the discussion, we don't get to hear any thoughts, we just don't get to see it, which means that, like, when we see the contestant vote, it's just an immediate skip, right? And we're like, okay, oh, I guess they voted for that person. We don't have any reasoning, no explanation, because we're doing the challenge, and maybe, you can see some relations during the challenge, right? However, we're still kind of doing the challenge, especially in a show like this where it's more random, right? But then if we're going to do a contestant vote, there needs to be something post the challenge of this team sorting themselves out. Like, who are they voting for? Why are they voting for them? They need to, like, we need to have this explanation. Even if it's obvious, we still need to hear it for it to make sense, you know? Because otherwise, even if you be like, okay, I guess that makes sense, we don't necessarily get to see it make sense, right? So I think that's still the problem that we're having with the contestant vote aspect of it, right? Because we're just glossing over the actual decision making process of a contestant vote, and that makes it feel a little bit emptier. That's why I think in episode 1 it maybe wasn't too hype, because we had the contestant vote, but no reasoning for any character to why they voted in the way they did. We just didn't see that as part of the episode. So, like, to do a successful contestant vote, there has to be that time. That time has to be given to the episode from end of challenge to beginning, where we have some sort of deliberation, just anything, where the contestants that are up for the contestant vote get to decide what it is, and we get to see them deciding it. Basically, we have to see the contestants decide who to vote for. Otherwise, it feels empty. All right. That's, I think, the reason why these maybe aren't hitting the way that they should. But eventually Scribbly gets out. Scribbly could barely talk, and to be honest, they were extremely, like, non-present in the writing of the episodes. Like, Scribbly didn't really talk to anybody, and nobody really talked to Scribbly. Like, we kind of just forgot they were there. So makes perfect sense as an elimination, but from the contestants voting it to also the writing voting it, again, it doesn't hit as much because we didn't get to see the contestants actually decide it. We just got to see the results, but not the procedure. But yeah. Then we have our other team, Better Than the Burge, up for elimination. Drivey has to do the outro, of course. Who's getting out? I don't really know. I mean, it kind of depends. We didn't get to see too much of this team because they were kind of just sitting in the back of a van the entire time. I'm gonna say maybe Waka Waka gets out because they don't speak necessarily in a regular way, right? So maybe they'll get ostracized for that. And then the prize, I'll say Graduation Hat, because they were the one who at least had a concept of how the hell to do anything, or while the other ones didn't. And then yet again, Drivey here in the post-credit scene, tries to be like, "Yo, Google, like, you gotta host your show, bro." And then Google's like, "No, I don't care. Go do what you want." So I was like, "Okay, if I would do an episode, this freaking that's fair." So yeah, to this moment, I am still gonna point out that it is a little bit of a weird relation if you consider that Google is called Google, but Drivey is called Drivey because, in the technicality, right? What are they? What is their relation? Are they brothers? Because like Google made Drivey in the sense of like the company. However, Google the character is very obviously Chrome. Like that's the Chrome logo, right? So theoretically, Chrome and Drivey, those could be brothers because they're both products created by Google, right? In that sense. But then having like Drivey and Google, technically Google would have made Drivey, so then that's the related, like again, I don't think that they're that related, but like in general, it's an interesting point. So that is episode 5 under Moo Management. It was cool. It was a little bit of a more relaxed vibe. I still think that there's some additional effort. There has to be like an extra scene or two before that elimination procedure to see the character speaking. I think that's the main way to improve the contestant vote. Otherwise, it's gonna feel empty, and we're gonna be switching back to viewer voting only at some point soon because it's like, oh, these ain't hitting. Yeah, these ain't hitting because you're not writing them. So yeah. But other than that, episode's interesting. And overall, I say that's a pretty solid start to Objectcember for sure. What's next on the lineup of Objectcember? Is it oh god. Is it BFDW? No, it's oh god, I don't freaking remember. No, it's this what is that? It's a singular line. What? That's the next thing on the lineup. Wait, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. What? Singular line the show? December 9th. It is BFTDI. Okay. Right? Are these in order? Well, yeah, I think it's BFTDI. All right, which is on December 9th. So I guess we'll think about that. That has a lot of episodes, so maybe we'll see. But anyways, let's move on to the next thing. We've talked about Google's diplomatic show enough. Let's go. All right, so the next show that we're going to be taking a look at is BFDW, also known as Battle for Dandy's World. Now, this is one that I took a look at quite a while ago. It's one of the early ones, or back in episode 7, in October. It's been a bit, all right, so I'm maybe not too brushed up on it. As a reminder about what happened in episode 1, every contestant, which is a toon, if I'm not mistaken, transformed into an object version of themselves, end up eventually some of them complaining to Dandy because they're not main toons, right? And they want to be main toons. They're being left out. But then Dandy decides to make them all compete in the show for the capability of possibly being a main toon. They form teams. They have a challenge, which is to fill in a generator. We have our 2 teams up for elimination, where we get 2 votes to save and 2 votes to eliminate. And then we indeed keep it moving. The teams that were up for elimination, I don't remember their names. I'm sorry. But yeah, we also apparently get flashbacks of a bad situation that happened before in Garden View that caused everything to shut down. Episode 2 is titled Stars of the Show. Let's watch it. Alright, so I have just watched BFDW 2 Stars of the Show. So, we have quite a lot to get down to, of course. BFDW ends up being a show that is quite long in its episode length. They're quite mainline levels of episodes that are being half an hour. We have, of course, shortened ourselves down because we don't need to introduce characters anymore. But we start off here with some flashbacks, okay? So, the flashback is between Shelly and Dandy, okay, because something happened, all right. Something happened. Shelly made a no mistake, and now V is affected by it, okay, and seems to have needed to reboot to like a new version or whatever because of this mistake. So I'm not exactly sure what it was. However, I do know that possibly, last time, right? In episode 1, we got to find out about the news report that there was apparently a big problem in the circus, right, in one of their stage performances that had everything burned down and stuff, right? So then Could this be related to that? Is that related to the mistake that let Garden View shutting down? I think it's not. However, I think it's something else. We don't get to hear too much about it, but apparently something bad happened. Okay, and V doesn't know about it, which ends up being quite a topic for the episode. We have our intro here. Yet again, I do like how in the intro we input the tape with the episode itself and the name of it. That means don't make an episode title too long, because it's gonna be a little bit complicated to fit it in. But yeah, we have ourselves the intro, which is it's a pretty cool intro. I like the intro for sure. But all right, then we have ourselves some team talk, being like, yo, okay, I'm sorry about this team, sorry about that team and stuff, right? But we're currently, we're locked down the teams. Team switching is currently not a thing in the show. Should it be a thing? I feel like my opinion is right now, no. I feel like we should be waiting a couple of episodes still. However, with the way that we are eliminating 2 people per episode, it should probably happen sooner rather than later. But for now, I think we should probably just keep ourselves on the board, right? And have everything be solid, and then eventually we have some characters be mad. So okay, all right, let's start off here with the elimination, right? Yes, okay. So the prize is cookies made by friggin' Cosmo and Sprout, which is nice, from the local grocery store. Let's go. That's fair. I thought Dandy just friggin' spawned them in, but no, I guess Dandy still has to spend money. So starting off with the book club, the eliminated character ends up being Yada. Yada ends up getting eliminated over Brightney with how many votes? Hold on. With negative 144, 113 likes, 257, 113 votes to save, 257 votes to eliminate, which is about 20 more than Brightney. I don't remember too much. I'm gonna be honest. Like it's a while. I've watched over 100 shows since I read the BFDW. Like at the end of the day, I give like before I watch these new episodes from a show I haven't watched, I do skim the first episode a little bit, just find out like the general course of events. Like okay, if this happened, we're right here, right? However, like the specifics of characters, sometimes I won't remember them. But in this case, Yada gets out. No mistaken, Yada was part of the Tea Party, and I guess was loud. So I guess that's why they get eliminated. I mean, look, there's a lot of characters, so they didn't really get much screen time. But goodbye, Yada. Also, you do have to remember the detail that we are dealing here with characters that are directly based off of characters that people who are watching the show will already have an opinion of. Right? So we're not only just chatting about them as object show contestants, we're also thinking about a character, right? Like if people just simply don't like Yada as a toon in the game itself, that is obviously going to impact their perception of Yada as a contestant in this show, right? The way that the toons are perceived in the community is directly impacting how they're perceived here. However, I have no idea how they're perceived in the community because it's not a community I'm in. Right? Like it's like I don't know Dandy's World. I'm looking at it from a very random perspective because it's the perspective of I don't really know Dandy's World that much. I've like gained a lot of knowledge from watching this show and Trinket Trouble and all that. But like in general, I've been complicated. Yeah, it eventually ends up singing down to the ground, and then eventually, after our dead contestants, we end up having Gigi ends up being a dead contestant, right? The next contestant is Teacup being out. Toodles directly freaking shouts it out that they need to read Flutter's diary, which Flutter, understandably, is pretty not happy to hear. It's like, what? What do you? What? I don't need that. Is Toodles a freaking? I'm still so confused about Toodles. If this is a toon, there's no way there's a toon that's an 8-ball. I refuse to believe it. What? This is 8-ball, bro. This is a toon. Hold on, let me search this up for a moment. Toodles. Dandy. What are you? Oh, you aren't. Wait, this is an actual person. Ain't no way. That's crazy. Because I just thought it was a BFB. I just thought it was a BFB joke because it's 8-ball. That's the character that's in every show. Okay, that's crazy. But eventually we end up having Teacup or Tegan get eliminated as well. They were also, I think, part of the Tea Party that they were doing. I guess people just don't like the Tea Party. Like, I guess we weren't too thrilled about that arc, maybe, because that's the main thing that those two were on about. I also think that they were the ones that had the worst audio mixing, if I'm not mistaken. Like, Tegan was way too low and Yato was way too high. I do remember sometimes complaining about audio mixing. For the record, it's better, to be honest. Like, yeah, it's been way less of an issue. Some characters, I will say, their mics are not extremely clear. Some VAs, like the actual voices themselves are fine, but some microphones are unfortunately not extremely clear. Do I want to give an example? I'm not going to give an example. Come on, that'd be mean. However, like, I do think that there's like one or two that you can kind of hear, but eventually, yeah, they end up having them be eliminated. We do end up actually mentioning the Halloween tunes. We're not really sure where they are, I guess, but yeah, they just dip. I mean, it's one of those one-liners where it's like, I wonder where they go. Oh, it's like exactly the type of line that you just write into the script, being like, okay, I'm gonna write this so that people think about it, so that later I can give you the answers. Like, and everybody's like, oh yeah, it's the question. It's like it's throwing a bone. you know. But eventually, we now have the if harm, which is the Ichor fueled healing and recovery machine. So if harmed, you can use it. That's nice. But it's good enough. Good enough wordplay. Okay, thank you, Daddy. But basically, as long as you have Ichor or one of those freaking machines, you can input it and it'll revive whoever you want in one go, which is pretty interesting. It can revive multiple people at once. However, it can also only revive one person. This is always interesting because it's one of those recovery machines that is limited, which I always think is an interesting thing. Objects don't take advantage of this enough, but I think the concept of like having a recovery machine that is generally limited, like you need something, a tangible item that's a limited quantity to be able to do revival, right? Which means that they end up being kind of high stakes items to have, right? For now, Daddy's just gonna give them to you, but yeah, we end up having ourselves the recovered contestants, Poppy and Louis. And then on the other team, we end up also recovering Gigi, which is like the weird ball. All right, then we have ourselves the Garden View warehouse challenge. Don't fucking die. Considering last episode we had death being like everybody thought it was permanent, and now in this episode it's like, yes, go cause murder. That's kind of fun. Little switch up. But basically, don't die. Do it whatever you want. So not dying, go murder everybody. The first two teams who have their member die ends up being up for elimination. The members on either team is Book Club, is Poppy, a Tea Party is Gigi. Both of those already died, which is convenient. Asho for domains, and then Finn for I hate team name. So those are the four. What is the best strategy for a challenge like this? It's most likely that the best strategy for a challenge like this is to hide, right? Because it's like, at the end of the day, if you build a gigantic protection, right? If you protect yourself, you are going to become a target, right? It's kind of like when we talk about like Minecraft bases, right? The best Minecraft base is the most secret one, right? Because it's like when you see this ginormous base, right, in Minecraft, you're gonna wanna try to break in, right? Because this is gigantic, right? But the best bases and the most secure ones are always the ones that nobody knows about. Basically, that's simply how it goes. So the best thing to do here is to just hide. Go hide in a box in the warehouse or something. Like, at the end of the day, who's gonna start shaking around every box, especially if it's high up and it's hard to get to, right? Like, hiding is the best strategy. Absolutely. Hide your one team member and the other ones go cause chaos. But eventually, we end up starting. One team ends up deciding to build a freaking castle for Poppy to, live in and stay alive. However, Brandy's like, yo, if you want to like go over to the other places, you can go do all that jazz. And then a lot of them end up going. Shrimpo team ends up, going to, of course, cause massive damage because the Shrimpo's there. Shrimpo is pretty much the source of chaos of the entire series, right? Because at the end of the day, currently, right, nearly everybody is chill with one another, right? There's V, and that's a different story. However, other than that, right, 90% of this cast gets along with each other, right? It's just there is currently a couple of chaos creators, right? Chaos creators is a character like Shrimpo. Shrimpo is a chaos creator. If Shrimpo wasn't present in the last episode for whatever reason, and they just did the challenge, it would be the most chill challenge of all time because nobody would really be impacting each other that much. It would just be relaxed, right? So, like every majority of the teams are just going in and it's like, okay, what do we do about Shrimpo? Right, that's kind of the main situation. Um, uh, and yeah, some teams, of course, will try to get back at Shrimpo. And then we end up having Shelly and V do whatever they're complaining. So, we need to also figure out what the hell's going on over here. Because we have the knowledge of the flashback where Dandy blames Shelly for doing something to V, and now V has had their memory wiped. Okay? But at the same time, V said something that really hurt Shelly, and the Shelly is complaining that V doesn't remember it. However, V has had their memory wiped. So theoretically, would this have happened before or after the event? Right? Like that's kind of the situation. Because if it happens before, then Shelly should know that we did indeed have the memory wipe. Nobody's freaking tells V what's going on. Like if V's like, yo, what did I say? And then we're like, oh, you don't want to know. You don't want to know the horrors. But like, in general, it's like, I don't know. What could have happened? Because Shelly did something directly, but V did something to Shelly. So I'm thinking that there's an argument. Okay, my presumption about what might have happened, okay, my current guess, is that they were doing something, right? Then V gets into a heavy argument with Shelly. Okay, then what happens? V says or does something really hurtful to Shelly, and then Shelly proceeds to retaliate aggressively. Like does a massive attack or whatever after whatever V says. V ends up taking knockback, the system breaks, right? From whatever happens, and then they have to relaunch it with whatever the current version is, right? So that means that V's memories is wiped, and Shelly is still hurt from what V said. However, the only thing that's weird about it is Shelly is being. This is either the greatest gaslighting of all time, or Shelly, for some reason, thinks that V can remember, even though V couldn't. So that's my guess about what's going on. So, like, Shelly's either lying about V remembering to sound correct, or they literally just forgot that V actually has had the memory wipe. But other than that, I don't really know. So, yeah. Wait a minute, no. Wait, that's wrong. Hold on. Is that wrong? Oh, no, wait, that's wrong, because Shelly... No, I'm getting the characters confused. Oh, no, 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 no. Wait, that's all wrong. Hold on. Wait. New theory. Wait, new theory. I mean, I still think that would happen, but... Wait, Shelly was the one defending V. Wait, what the fuck happened? Wait, what? I mean, that debate might still have happened, but why is Tisha upset? Wait, what? Now that makes less sense. I forgot. I thought Shelly was upset. Wait, was Shelly upset or was Tisha upset? Hold on. No, wait, Tisha was upset, right? That's what the debate is. Oh yeah, fucking Tisha's upset. Don't you remember me? All those things you said about. Wait, what? Oh God. Nah, never mind. Never mind. Or did shit? Or were they both there? No. Oh God. Okay. You know what? Theory is postponed. Okay. Because that doesn't make sense anymore. Because it's like if you do this, then there's freaking Tisha. So V blamed Tisha, but then Shelly did something to V, and V got their memory reset, and then Tisha doesn't know. Okay, there's like a trident going on. Okay. Hold on. So Tisha and V got into a heated argument. V said bad things about Tisha, and then whatever happens, probably later, Shelly does something probably on acid during a show, which ends up hurting V. And V has their system reset, which means that they end up in the new system. Okay, and Shelly knows about it and why V doesn't remember. However, V doesn't remember, and Tisha probably because it was a hidden fact, right? Because Dandy probably hid it from everybody else. That V not remembering is something that was hidden, and that means that Tisha doesn't know that V's memory wipe even happened. However, Shelly knows and is trying to protect V, and it's like, yo, V literally has no idea what you are talking about, but I can't say it directly that their memory got wiped. So we end up having, this try to, okay, I think that makes more sense. All right, my bad for the completely wrong theory. Okay, sorry, I got the names mixed up and I absolutely lost it. Anyways, what the hell are we talking about? Oh yeah, the challenge. Remember that? Okay. So most people end up going after Finn, right? Because Finn, or at least the team friggin' book club, and are going after Finn because Finn is Shrimpo's team and they want to get Shrimpo out, and Shrimpo has to be up for elimination. So I need to kill Finn, right? Finn and like Gloop or whatever it was end up friggin' going in to what are you called Goop? I don't remember what you were called, but the one with the friggin' arms, the one with the gloves, ends up sort of being both of them in the high ground. They don't really know what to do, right? But then the fellas from her team, right, Poppy and eventually the freaking the fella that's a drop of Icor. I don't remember the names. God damn it! Or you were called Goop, right? Surely you were called Goop. I swear, bro. No, you were called Blot. No, wait, who's called? Is there anybody called Goop? No, Goop is the one that with the gloves. Okay, yeah, I pulled up the list. And then Blot is the one that I'm talking about. Okay, so I actually want to talk about Blot. So Blot in episode 1 spoke in reverse. I remember this. This was the detail because I complained about it. Basically, Blot spoke in reverse, and it was fine. It was a unique character trait. However, it was impossible to understand what Blot's saying, right? Because you're speaking in reverse, so you just don't know what the hell they're saying at any given time, and that was a problem, right? However, the thing about it being a problem is that, like, in this episode, we have just made Blot mysteriously speak normally again, and it ends up, first of all, as a massive, like, lore blind spot. Because, like, okay, I understand that they did this for a technical reason, but why the hell does he speak normally now? You can't just make a significant character change without explaining it. Like, you need to give a lore explanation to what the hell or why that's happening. And second of all, hold on, I didn't want what to not speak in reverse. No, speaking in reverse is cool. We just need you to, like, characters do that. If I'm not mistaken, a character in Object Lawdown does that. Cherry, right? And that's like fine. That's cool. You just need to have text on the screen. You don't need to not reverse the audio. You just need to reverse the audio and add subtitles. That's what you need. You just need to have text on the screen. Okay? that's all you need to do. It's way better, okay? Because now you're just making this character that did have a unique trait. You removed their unique trait. You could keep it and then just have some subtitles, and then it's way better, you know? Like that's what we need. We don't need it. You just stop speaking in reverse. Come on, like, bro, that's not as good. But anyways, what were we on about? Then eventually one team decides that their best tactic isn't gonna be to necessarily actually attack that much. They're gonna lure Shrimpo into a trap, so that way we just embarrass Shrimpo. We dunk them in pink freaking paint, so that way they end up being pink, and then eventually they get attacked, so that they freaking have a tiara now, which is interesting. So they successfully do it. Apparently, we also have Astro, which ends up hanging out with in the base of everybody else, because that's fair enough. So we end up having a combination here. Yet again, I mean, this is not a great tactic, because, for example, you see Shrimpo sees the massive tower and goes, "I will take down the massive tower," because obviously there's a massive tower there. If you didn't have a massive tower, Shrimpo wouldn't go after you, because it wouldn't be obvious that you're there. That's why making massive sculptures is not a good idea. But yeah, Shrimpo ends up. You can kind of tell that Shrimpo's a little bit goofy. from time to time. But then we end up having some chatting about some fellas with hold on, who ended up having this conversation? I don't 100% remember. Wait, when is this conversation? Is it the post credits? No, wait, it's not the post credits. Wait a minute. When the hell does this conversation happen? When you know the conversation about Shrimpo being like a normal guy. Where the hell? Well, how did I miss it? Wait, what? Hold on. Give me a moment. Oh, it was right here. Oh, okay, yeah. Gigi. That was like in the middle of the episode. I completely skipped it because I was freaking confused about the story before. So Gigi was apparently best buds with Shrimpo. Shrimpo, was happy, was compassionate, and everything. And then eventually, at some point, Shrimpo became all distant and angrier for some reason. Now, do we know what happened? Well, we don't really know because apparently Flutter wrote about it, and it was because of something. They went into a room, apparently, that they were not supposed to be in, and then they became all distant after something. Now, it was because of, and then we cut to Blot. So I don't know if that actually means that Blot is the cause of anything. We are going into a dark room that looks like Icor. And of course, Blot is it. I mean, you aren't liter. Or I don't think you're physically Icor, but like you kind of look like one, right? So we end up having some interesting details. I don't know if this guy's at fault for anything, but maybe they are. But eventually, well, yeah, I kind of don't really know the story. Again, I don't know if this has anything to do with even with Andy's World lore itself. But hey, if it does, then I guess that's interesting. But either way, yeah, we don't really know too much here about this story. But like, yeah, Shrimpo's this, and now keep a mind on it for BFDW 3 and all future episodes. But then eventually, everybody in the freaking fortress ends up getting their fortress destroyed. Not necessarily because of it, it's because of Finn. Because Finn gets yeeted, if you remember, by Goob because to keep them safe. Was this a terrible idea? Objectively, yes. Throwing the glass fish tank at 1 billion miles per hour is objectively a terrible idea, and the fact that they don't shatter is not in any way at all a sign of skill, ability, or smartness. The decision is stupid. The fact that they end up landing that they end up cushioning their fall with the pillow fort is just luck, right? But that team lucked out massively because they absolutely should have lost because they made a 0 out of 10 decision. Like, it was actually such a bad decision. I mean, like, holy shit, it was so dumb. But they end up getting away with it. But then Finn ends up crashing into the pillow fort, which means that the pillow fort gets crushed, right? So that means that Poppy, of course, immediately pops because of getting crushed, and then Asher also ends up getting crushed himself. I'm not sure what object Asher directly is, by the way, because of course everybody's directly kind of been either turned into an object or they are one, but I don't really know what Asher's supposed to be. I kind of am imagining them as a glass ball, but I don't really know what Asher is as an object. But eventually they get crushed by a book, and then they die. Which means that those are the two teams up for elimination. We have the team Butt Club, which is up for elimination again, and then the Mains and us are also eliminated. No, are also up for elimination. Where I presumably we're using the same system, right? The 2 votes to save and the 2 votes to eliminate. Even though we don't have a re-explanation of those. So who gets out? I don't remember who I predicted last time, but I don't think I got it right, even remotely, because I don't think I had Yada getting out. Dude, who gets out here? Okay, personally, in my honest, humble opinion, I'd eliminate Pebble. Why would I eliminate Pebble? Because Pebble is not an interesting character. I'm sorry. You're just kind of like a dog. You're just gonna randomly bark, and then some characters are gonna go, "Oh my god, really?" It's kind of like a non-serious character, right? So I think he's not good for the environment. However, yeah. In that team, there's a couple of people that could realistically get eliminated. Sprout and Cosmos should be relatively safe. And then Shelly should realistically also be safe. So then there's the debate of do we eliminate Tisha for being rude, V for being rude apparently, or Asher for being kind of dumb. Because Astro, of course, was kind of dumb. They freaking let themselves. They freaking decided to join arms with another team. So that way, that makes them a double target because two of the people that we need to target are in the same spot, which makes them, of course, much more dangerous. So Astro was made a dumb decision. V apparently did something extremely hurtful to Tisha that they can't remember. However, Tisha was, like freaking shouted at them and won't freaking tell them the things that they said. I'm gonna say that Tisha gets out because we have the context of the V memory reset. If we didn't have the context of the V memory reset, I think we would consider, oh, V's gaslighting, get her out. However, I think in this one we're gonna eliminate Tisha because maybe Tisha's correct, but Tisha doesn't freaking trust that V maybe just doesn't know as a mechanical machine. Maybe the files were deleted or whatever. Like that logic isn't there. So I'm going to say Tisha gets out. And on the other team, I mean, yes, again, you can eliminate Poppy because Poppy didn't do a smart decision either. Like being inside of a pillow fort is a bad idea because, you're like a bubble. Like, you can't get crushed. You're one of those characters that literally can't get, no, sorry, not Poppy. Louis, right? Louis? Louis or Poppy? Hold on. Which one is who? Da 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 da. I don't remember. No, Louis. Yeah, no, yes, Pop is Pop. Right, because you're like a bubble, right? Which means that getting crushed immediately destroys you. So doing that idea isn't great. But then also, Bryony's the one who invented that idea, and it was a bad idea because having an ultra structure is bad. And they were in the bottom 2 last time, and they were great, but they did apologize, and it might be a bit nicer. I'm gonna say Bryony gets up. I'm gonna say Bryony and Tisha, although I really am struggling because there's just so many options. To be honest here, but. Yeah. That's all I can realistically say about BFDW2. In terms of other things, writing is fine. Audio is mostly okay. It's maybe got, I think, a little bit too little music. To be honest, like a decent portion of it is just silence. I'm gonna be like a decent chunk of it is kind of just silence, and it's a little weird. From time to time, it feels like the vibe ends up getting kind of thrown off by the fact that we're just completely silent half the time. That we could use up a little bit of music extra. Audio mixing has been severely improved. But yeah, and in terms of animation, we do have certain like you can tell when animation changes from like scene to scene, right? But like on average, they end up being pretty all right. And I don't think there's nothing that necessarily sticks out as bad or good. It all ends up being relatively the same, like pretty solid quality, right? That it doesn't harm at all, right? You kind of don't think about animation that much, and that means that it's doing a good job at just being clean, nice, a nice aesthetic, not too much to it. So yeah, that is BFDW episode 2. I talked about it so long because then they're getting super distracted by the V Shelley story, but that's all. Let's go next. All right, then the next show that we're going to be taking a look at is going to be December. So December 1, released by Battleforsupreme a couple of days ago. It is, I mean, not necessarily a spiritual sequel to the Halloween Object Show, but it's a show based on a time frame that there are quite a lot of, right? But we have December 1. I'm not sure what the release schedule of December is, but so far we only have episode 1 as of me recording this. December 1 is titled, this was supposed to be out 3 days ago, oops, and it was released on like the 5th, I think. So that's roughly, what we are basing it off. Let's watch it. It's 26 seconds long. Come on, let's go. All right, so that was December 1. I mean, there's really not much to say about it. There's no audio at all. Like, okay, I understand that we don't have voice acting, but we just don't have audio. Like, in general, there just isn't audio in this thing. We get ourselves some characters, which I do think are some pretty interesting concepts. I like the idea of a broken ornament. I like the pine tree having no legs. I like the cookies and milk being sort of a combined characters as the cookie dips into the milk, but can probably walk out. They probably just want to like be there, right? So I think that there's some cool character concepts that, of course, we won't really get to see them speak. This show is, I mean, incredibly, I guess, like it makes do with what it has. It manages to do pretty much everything that it possibly wants with 2 frames, the frame of the host and the frame of all the contestants, including the challenge, which is to catch a snowflake. A bunch of snowflakes drop, they land on four characters, and that means that the other three are up for elimination, and we don't even change their poses or locations. We actually just transition into the voting screen with those three characters in their same spot, which, I mean, it's pretty creative way to do the least amount of things possible, to be fair. It's about to save 36-hour time limit, kind of random. I'd save the broken ornament because I think ornament characters are cool and they look cool. That's all I can realistically say about December 1. I have no idea when the next episode is. I don't know what the schedule of the show is, but all right, let's go next. All right, and then the next thing that we're going to be talking about is the finale of Green. Because remember, very recently we actually took a look at Green in episode 45, which is pretty recent. Well, Green after the week with release of like Green 6 released a week ago. We had Green 7, or Final Green, which is, the finale of Green, released. As a reminder for what the hell was going on in Green 6, we ended up having all our eliminated contestants come back. They were pretty mad for, being left in a random opposite dimension thing. And then we ended up having our final voting for who should win, Granny Smith or Green Homer. Let's find out who won. All right, well, there we have it. That was the finale of the hit show Green, where, we have all of our contestants back. They are indeed very green. It's so weird to see a cast that is so unbelievably, incredibly green. Like what? How are there this many green things in the world? I didn't even know there were that many green things in the world. But I guess there were. And anyways, Green Homer wins. I mean, I feel like that was probably pretty clear. I don't remember if I actually predicted that. I might have tried to go against the trend. But I mean, Green Homer got so many votes that when they got skipped, everybody made a fuss about it. That's just how many votes Green Homer got. Everybody made a fuss about it. They easily won eliminations. Easily got the most votes, and yeah, I mean, they win pretty clearly. Green Homer has a fan base, which for a small show where characters usually tend to not exactly have fans, Green Homer does, so absolutely smashes the competition. Good job, Green Homer, on winning. What I think of you as a host, usually I like to say that a host represents what it is. Yeah, no, personally, I still prefer Granny Smith because Granny Smith is an actually green thing. Green Homer is just taking a pre-existing character and turning them green, which is mildly lazy, but either way, and they don't even have that much screen time. They don't have that many gags. Green Homer is one of those characters that, like, I feel like there's people like them more for the concept that they imagine in their head or for what they actually do. But they don't do anything. So, yeah, good job, Green Homer, anyways, for winning. And then apparently Yellow Telephone, OMG, appears and wants to steal the contestants. Okay, what, are you going to make a show called Yellow? And what are you gonna turn? What if you turn everybody yellow? What if you make a yellow version of every contestant, like a yellow apple and a yellow Hulu look? Like what? I am gonna say I am mildly disappointed that the character that said yeah to the request wasn't the lemon, who's mostly yellow. The only character that is yellow instead of green didn't say yeah to yellow, which I will say is very disappointing. But other than that, I mean, hey, we've got ourselves a season 2 already prepared to maybe happen someday with this yellow fella. Although, I mean, I'm not sure how the yellow host is gonna, host all these green characters, because, like, the specific joke with green is that we are so monochromatic in terms of how this object show goes that, like, we're not really switching too much. Like the environment is not that interesting, right? But instead, if we have a yellow host, we are allowed to make the environment more interesting. So I'm predicting that it's going to be a show called Yellow, and everybody's going to be yellow. That's my prediction. But yeah, I mean, good job, Green Homer. Let's go next thing. All right, and then the final thing that we're going to be taking a look at today, because I want today's a small day because I was busy doing other project, okay. But we're going to be going back to AOSBNRAOSBIAJOS because the AOSBNRAOSBIAJOS finale is upon us. I think 6B. As a reminder about what happened last time, our previous host Walmart teleported to another dimension, and Sonic the Hedgehog took over with the challenge being to defeat Eggman. Diction defeats Eggman, and then we have ourselves the vote to win, Diction or Himshies. We'll find out, maybe. I mean, I see that the season one compilation, the full season is out. That would imply that 6B is the final episode of AOSBNRAOSBIAJOS. Let's see, which one of the two characters is going to be the winner? Let's find out. Yo, wait, what? I'm in the video. Okay. I just watched Osborne Rose Biagos, the hit series, the finale of it, which is 6B. Again, realistically, this should be episode 7. I still don't know why we're doing an A and B split here. It's not the same episode. But anyways, we have ourselves Sonic hosting. We end up having, a new intro, a special intro here for the finale. It's quite extended, I think. Yeah, it lasts a solid like 30 seconds. This updated intro, however, it is a higher quality intro than the previous one. Wait, is it? What was the previous one? Hold on. Well, the previous one was, I guess, a little bit more action-packed, but this one shows off the characters a little bit better. It's one of those classic object show intros where it's like you see the character, two poses, one generic pose, one more like identifiable pose, right? It's a classic little thing. Um, and then we end up having the finale. 7 votes. Diction wins the show with 5 votes. This is pretty damn obvious that it was going to happen. I mean, they are the one who defeated Eggman after all when Himshies was nowhere to be seen that entire time, the entirety of the episode 6A. And Himshies is genuinely nowhere to be seen in episode 6B either, other than the intro. Are we sure Himshies is here? Where did Himshies go? Did Himshies get arrested by the Pentagon? What happened? What happened to him? I feel like Himshies got arrested by the Pentagon. I'm not gonna lie, cause like they're nowhere to be seen, bro. But then eventually Sonic ends up bailing. By the way, the intro calls Sonic the co-host guy. I don't know if that's the correct way to mention to like um describe what is going on here. Like he's kind of he was a replacement host more than co-host. He never hosts together with the fella. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to have Sonic speak in like some Sonic voice lines rather than a text to speech, and instead have the text on the screen. It's a little bit of a different style, which is nice. Um, so yeah, do I think Diction represents the show? I mean, I don't know who would. To be honest, like I think Diction is one of the best characters here because a bunch of them did have asset reworks and stuff and didn't do that much. More Diction, had its own special voice actor, did some cool stuff, right? And even though they are a debutante, and usually debutantes don't represent the show the best, I feel like Diction's a pretty nice choice in my opinion. Um, but anyways, we have ourselves the credits where I'm in the credits, bro. I am in the credits because I reacted to show. Look at my profile picture. That's like an inverted image of a cube. Let's go. Shout out to me, I guess. That's weird, but no. Shout out to you. We're making Albus Ross Biagos and inventing the best title in object show history, but also, just making a cool little quick show. And eventually Diction ended up as the top dog. Apparently, Walmart fucking died, according to the finish. So I guess whatever universe they teleported to was not too kind to them. So oh well. And yeah, so we did see in the comment section that apparently season 2 is coming soon. All right, season 2 of Alspin Rouse Biagio. So we might not be done with it yet. And I mean, of course, a season 1 full season episode does imply the existence of more seasons, possibly in the future. So hey, I'll be looking out for Alspin Rouse Biagio because I think it's the only series that we're currently making. Because CAS, that was the other series that I originally reacted to, has been, I think, privated and just wiped off the face of the planet. So I think since that doesn't exist anymore, we have only Aspen Raspbiages to look forward to. But yeah, I mean, I'll obviously check out anything else that gets made. And yeah, for the discussion here of Aspen Raspbiages is nice. I'm gonna miss saying Aspen Raspbiages. That's why I'm getting it one more time. Should I'm gonna do one last Ausbin Raspbiages for the boys. All right, one last time. I'm gonna say it. All right, because I don't know how long it's gonna be until season 2, and I gotta just say it one last time. This one's gonna be aggressive. Ausbin Raspbiages. Let's do an outro. Alright, and that is gonna be all for today's episode of Object Catchup. I was busy today. I'm gonna be honest. I had some stuff to do relating to, a thing I can't talk about yet, but maybe you're gonna be seeing in this December, You're gonna be seeing a little non-catch-up project with some cool people, alright? You're gonna be seeing it, but I was mainly working on that, which will also in general shorten a little bit of catch-ups. Which means I might skip some days might be smaller. But either way, look, yes, this is the shortest catch-up episode in a long time. In fact, it is, but it's the shortest since 27, which was the request wrap-up. So it's been about 20 episodes since we've had an episode be this short, right? However, look, the shortest episode coming right after the longest episode, that's fine. I mean, look, if any of you have watched The Boy all the way through, you haven't. You're lying. So like, go watch that. There's enough catch-up content to go around. All right. And even if one day is gonna have a little bit less of it, we're gonna be doing more. There's so many requests for things that I gotta watch, which I'm gonna be getting to. One of these days, absolutely, I gotta start making a more conscious effort to look at the requests themselves, because I've not really taken a big look at them today. I couldn't really, but probably nearing in to that episode 50, 51. Like technically, I think by the way that I had originally planned it, 51 was going to be Request Revelations 2. However, I don't know if I'm going to do Request Revelations 2. I probably will, to be honest, but we're going to need to see. It depends on whatever the hell I decide to make episode 50, which I'm currently still pretty undecided. I was originally thinking of maybe watching one, but I think I'm going to be too busy to watch one because it's such a massive show. So I might do a special that's another thing, and then leave one to a non-special episode number. But yeah. All right. So for the shows that we watched today, which was pretty much, kind of a half keep up, we're all caught up. See you next time. Goodbye.